The sound of her name being yelled out made her turn away. She saw Detective Florian sprinting toward her. She'd barely managed to get to her feet when he threw his arms around her and pulled her tightly against him. "Oh, thank God you're all right. When I heard the call on my radio, I prayed you were safe. What happened?" Leaning back slightly, he eyed her appearance, as if to be sure she hadn't suffered any ill effects. "You sure you're all right?"
"Yeah."
She coughed as she nodded.
"I got out in time, thanks to the firemen."
"What happened?"
"I don't know."
She managed to shrug.
"I had just woken up when I smelled the smoke. Or maybe it was the smoke that woke me, I don't know. I tried to get out, but the whole upper floor was filled with smoke. But I was able to get out through my bedroom window."
He hugged her again, more tightly. Beneath her hand, Rose felt his heart thudding rapidly inside his chest. He was better than a comforting warm blanket, and she closed her eyes to savor their contact for as long as he'd let her. "Hey, Captain!" Florian yelled at a nearby fireman, who turned to look at him. The detective let her go to reach for his shield and show it to the man. "What can you tell me about this fire?" The fire captain walked over to them. "At this point, there ain't much to tell you, other than that it started on the first floor. That much we're certain of. It'll be a few days before the arson squad can determine the cause, but first they'll have to wait until it's cooled down enough for them to start their investigation." "Could it have been accidental?" Florian questioned. "Like I said, we won't know for a couple of days." "Then it's also possible it could have been deliberately set." The captain gave Florian a curious look. "We both know anything's possible, Detective." "How were you notified? Who called it in? Do you know?" "You'll have to call the dispatcher for that information." "Rose! Rosie!" She whirled around just as the minor men surrounded her to trade thankful hugs. Eugene didn't try to hide his tears.
"We heard the fire trucks, but we didn't think anything of them until someone called to tell Clyde the club was on fire. Are you all right?" Yeah, I'm fine,"
she reassured them, smiling down at their anxious faces. "What caused it? Where did it start?" Rocco queried, glancing back at the demolished building. The firemen had given up on trying to save the structure and were focusing their attention now on the surrounding buildings to prevent the fire from spreading.
"We don't know,"
she told them. Across the street, she saw the detective talking on his car's police radio. She couldn't hear what he was saying, but already she missed having his arms around her. A tug on her blanket drew her attention back to the group of little men standing around her. Seeing them gave her the sense of being guarded by a phalanx of armed guards.
"What are you going to do now, Rosie?"
Elroy inquired.
"You're gonna rebuild the club, right?" "I don't know. I have a little money saved up, but it won't be enough. Once I pay the taxes, I won't have anything left."
"She had something to do with this," Maury insisted. "You know she did. Don't even try to deny it. This was to be the final straw. If she couldn't buy you out, then she'd burn you out and force you to sell to her."
"Maury?"
She started to protest when the detective joined them. When he slipped an arm around her shoulders, she almost sighed with happiness. "I spoke with the dispatcher. She said an unknown man called in to report smoke coming from the building, but that's all she could give me. Rose, where do you go from here? Do you have a place where you can stay, at least temporarily?" Florian's face was filled with concern. Aloysius spoke first.
"She's staying with us. Bob has a spare bedroom at his apartment, don't you, Bob?"
The little man with the overly large ears smiled and nodded.
"There. Done deal."
Aloysius clapped his hands together as if wiping off dirt. "Rose?" She looked up into the detective's eyes. "I hope this was an accident, but if it wasn't..."
"I'll be fine. The boys will see to it that nothing harms me."
Florian gazed at each of the dwarfs. "Do I have your word on that?" His voice was hard, authoritative, and her happiness rose a notch. It was Clyde who smartly saluted the detective in reply. "You have our word as a minor, sir."